This is Disclosure Now, a show where we expose the truths that are nefariously hidden from humanity. Today we examine the investigative research of Whitney Webb, who warns of Elon Musk's attempting to create Rokos Basalisk, an omnipresent super-powerful artificial intelligence that takes care of all decision-making for humanity and the dangers that presents. We compare her warnings to Arkheim's testimony of a THX 1138-like timeline where the sound of silence was reality.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Disclosure Now. Today we're going to be covering Elon Musk again. We're talking a lot about him lately. I don't really like to talk about him too much, but obviously there's reasons why everyone's talking about him. He's got a lot of power right now, got a lot of control, got a lot of money. He's basically the first unelected president by proxy ever in United States history, which is a really dangerous thing for somebody like with the ideals and attitudes and stuff like that Musk does exude. One of the things we're going to talk about here is what is Rokos Basalisk. So I'm just going to show you a very simple article that I found on it to kind of explain what's going on here with this. So just give me a second. Hello. And this is an article on it. And basically, so that's how I met Grimes. Claire Boucher, his the mother of 3 of his children, and they say they're not together, and I think they might be together still, and she just says that for her music career, but that's a whole nother thing. They met because they know about Rokos Basalisk. Hope I'm saying that correct. And it was allegedly posted to Less Wrong, a forum and blog about rationality and psychology and artificial intelligence, broadly speaking, in July 2010 by a user named Roko. At the most basic level, the thought experiment is about the conditions and would be rational for a future artificial superintelligence to kill the humans who didn't help bring it into existence. So the thought experiment is based on a theory first postulated by Less Wrong's creator, Eliezer Yudkowsky, called Coherent Explanation of Volition, or CEV. The theory itself is pretty dense, but for the purposes of a Roko thought experiment, it can be treated as a hypothetical program that causes artificial superintelligence to optimize its actions for human good. Yet if a superintelligence makes all of its choices based on which one is best suited for achieving human good, it will never stop pursuing that goal because things could always be a bit better. Since there's no predefined way to achieve a goal as nebulous as human good, the AI may end up making decisions that seem counterintuitive to that goal from a human perspective, such as killing all the humans that didn't help bring it into existence as soon as possible. From the AI's perspective, however, this route makes sense. If the goal is achieving human good, then the best action for any of us to be possibly taking right now would be working towards bringing a machine optimized to achieve that goal into existence, and anybody who isn't pursuing that goal is impeding progress and should be eliminated in order to better achieve the goal. This is the reason Rokos Basalisk is often cited as the most terrifying thought experiment of all time, because now that you've read about it, you're technically implicated in it. You no longer have an excuse to not help bring the super intelligent AI into existence, and if you choose not to, you become a prime target for the AI. So this is where the story, the thought experiment, gets its basilisk name. There's a great science fiction story by David Langford about a type of image called basilisks that contain patterns that make them deadly to anyone who looks at them. In the story, a group goes around throwing up these images in public places and hope they would kill unsuspecting passerbys who look at them. When Roko posted his basilisk theory to rest wrong, it really ticked off Yudkowsky, deleted the post and banned all discussion of the basilisk from the forum for 5 years. When Yudkowsky explained his actions and the futurality, he said Reddit a few years later after the original post, he claimed that Roko's thought experiment assumed it could overcome a number of technical obstacles in decision theory, and even if this was possible, Roko effectively spreading a dangerous idea, much like the villains in Langford's story. So basically, even the person who hosted this forum where they were talking about this hypothetical future AI that will punish you for not bringing it into existence, they banned mention of it because they literally took it seriously. They weren't looking at it hypothetically like some fun, spooky, ghost story that you tell around a fire. Like, this is like an actual potential future that is a threat to humanity. So right now, anything's approaching super intelligent AI as a distant goal, yada yada yada. But right now, of course, we have the government trying to, and I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm looking at the chat now. Numbers don't lie. Ben, Millie, Shannon. Thanks to everyone for being here. Thanks for sticking with the channel, despite the fact that I had to just make it mine. And I don't know how many people are upset with me for doing that. I've made a post about it for people who want to see why I did that. But yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate everybody who's still stuck around and is still sticking with me, despite the fact that I'm not running the Donald Trump trade. So one of the things that I want to point out about this whole situation is I've seen an alternate timeline where this future comes into play. What I'm going to do right now is read the Sound of Silence lyrics for you. And this song was written by Sergeant Gunnery Stan Mulgrave, who was a Montauk time soldier that we don't know where he is, but he wrote this song about the omnipresent AI future. And basically what it is everybody's connected to this computer through a neural link and connected to each other through a neural link in this future that I have literally fucking seen, you people. I'm not making this shit up. I've been there. I was implanted there through the Montauk Project with no memories. I thought I was just a normal person living a normal life like I thought for the majority of this life. And basically, there's a little computer on the door, and it talks to people. It tells you things. People don't talk. Everything's through the neural link, and there is no human decision making. The computer tells you what to do. It does every aspect of life. So, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams, I walked around narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. In the naked light, I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, hearing without listening, writing songs that voices never shared and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. And he's talking about how they didn't talk. The only thing you ever heard was the sound of people's footsteps. It was eerie. And he says, "Fools, you said I do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words so that I might teach you. Take my arms so that I might reach you." Because we were trying to get them broken out of this stupor, this mind controller under the computer, but it seemed impossible. And it's a whole story. We actually did eventually avert that timeline by basically, I got one of the women pregnant, and then they said kill the baby, and then you can't harm human life. It's like one of the only rules, so it caused a civil war. To like sum it up like really fast, it's a long story, but that's summing it up really fast. So yeah, my words like silence, raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. Like, guys, they're talking about an artificial intelligence. When the song was written, people weren't really thinking about that, but that's what they were talking about. The sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. It said, "The words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence." So you would see graffiti like, "Hey, the computer isn't God," and like things like that. I can't remember all the messages, but I know I spray painted some of them, and different Montauk soldiers, we'd go in and we'd write stuff on the walls, and they'd walk past them. And these people were so mind controlled by the computer that if you were committing a crime, they didn't have the concept of crime. They didn't have the concept of you doing something wrong. When they saw me graffitiing, they always just assumed, oh, the computer must have told them to do that. Like, that's literally how the reality worked. Is nothing was done unless the computer said it needed to be done. So it's very creepy. Very, very, very creepy future. And so one thing that I now we're going to get to Whitney Webb. So Whitney Webb is an investigative journalist who, she's been blowing the lid on the World Economic Forum and all sorts of stuff. She gathers extremely important information that has to do with the future of humanity, where the planet's headed. And I found this YouTube that kind of, it's just like some interviews of hers, and they cut out the good parts basically. So we're gonna take a look at that right now, because she's basically explaining to everybody exactly what I've been explaining about how this could be extremely dangerous, but doing it without being like, I'm a time traveler from the future who actually saw this. He's just doing it as an extremely rational human being that's really intelligent, who's just putting the dots together. So we're going to look at her testimony right now and see what she has to say. So just give me 1 second. I obviously got to find the video, which sometimes can be hard. It's here, you guys. I promise. Just a second. Here it is. All right.
I argue that AI will become so much more intelligent than humans and think so differently that it could never explain how it reaches its conclusion.
So presented by Savvy Finance. I don't know where the original interview for this is. She does all sorts of interviews, but shout out to Savvy Finance for just chopping up all the stuff that she said and making it concise and put together. Thank you.
To people, which envisions a future of computer says no, computer says yes, computer issues it, and you can't question it, it can't explain itself. We must trust that it's, in a kind of a religious way, that it's so much smarter than anything else. So if it says,
so this is what happens. The computer becomes God. You know, it becomes God. It decides all aspect of human life. And it's just like she's saying, well, you have to listen to the computer, because without the computer, we had famine, we had wars, we had destruction, you know, crime. But with the computer, we don't have any of that. The computer literally does become God. Hello, Kira. Hello from yesterday. My time-traveling friend in the future.
yeah, Nuki ran, for example, and you know, and then they get in trouble for it or something, they'll be like, well, it was the computer and it's so much more intelligent than us humans. You know, I mean, that's basically a way for them to get away with whatever they want. Just be like, well, actually the super intelligent artificial general intelligence that's smarter than God himself told us to do it, and we.
So basically, this is like a fascist dictator's wet dream, because the computer just, oh, the computer said to do it, and we have to listen to the computer. The computer knows all. The computer's smarter than us. It can see the future. It can predict things. That's the point where it comes to. Like, for instance, I can tell you guys, like at Montauk, we were very successful in what we did because we listened to the computer. There wasn't that human emotion behind anything we did. It was all surgical. Okay, so it would tell us to do things like, hey, you got to go back to ancient Mexico in this Aztec city, and you have to kill every man, woman, and child. And you just have to listen to the computer. So I'm talking babies. I'm talking blood everywhere, dead bodies everywhere. And it was the computer telling us to do it. And the computer always knew, and it made everything easier. You just listen to the computer, because a human, it's harder for a human to like be like, yeah, if you want to get what you want, you got to go back in time and kill a whole village or whatever, because of who they're going to become in the future, how their society is going to progress. You got to get rid of them before that even happens, right? It's super messed up and disgusting, and that is a big part of it's the might equals right. The computer's right. The computer's right. Listen to the computer. The computer is God. That's what we're heading towards. We're not heading towards it. That's why we're doing a show on it. I'm not doing this because doom and gloom, it's going to happen. No. I believe that all this stuff is going to backfire. I believe that all of the people who are supporting Trump, who are supporting Elon, are going to pull their heads out of their behinds, because a lot of these people are good people. And as soon as the proof is in the pudding and they see like the evidence that these people aren't who they say they are, which is already happening, it shouldn't take them so long. Like, seriously, you got the guy doing a sig heil. Like, believe people when they show you who they are, guys. Like, but I really do believe that a lot of people are going to come back down to earth with us. I really do believe that. Electronic God. E-God, electronic God. That's kind of interesting. Yeah. And I told you guys, I've been like, if you are an avid viewer of this channel and you've been watching me, you have seen me warn of a computer that does decision making for the government, and how when that comes into power, when that comes into place, that can be extremely detrimental for humanity and strip everything that strip everything that we have from us, everything that makes us human, in the name of safety. And what do they say? If you give away your safety in the name for security, you deserve neither. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said that. And it, you know, I don't agree with the guy and everything. He's a bit of a fraud in a lot of ways, but that's true. But yeah, so
Question that now, can we?
Over the past few years, popular investigative journalists and writers like Whitney Webb have had a major warning for humans. Humanity is sleepwalking into a dangerous future, blindly handing over control to artificial intelligence without fully grasping the consequences. Our brains, the most complex and powerful tool we possess, are being systematically undermined. Capable of storing 2.5 million gigabytes of memory, solving problems, and expressing emotions, the human brain thrives on use. But what happens when we stop using it? Like any muscle, it deteriorates. By outsourcing critical thinking, memory, and problem-solving to AI, we risk creating a population of mentally passive, dependent individuals.
I want to point out that this is already happening with the smartphones. People don't know how to get places. They use the GPS to get everywhere. It's basically, literally, this isn't like, oh, it probably is. No, scientists, neuroscientists and stuff like that are showing our smartphones, because we're relying on them for so much, they're literally making our cognitive capabilities less. They're literally making us stupid. And yes, it is the beginning of the hive mind. It is 100% absolutely. Yeah, I know. I was there, buddy. Believe me, I know. Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right, Dan. It was run by an ancient AI as well, which I was talking about, and I appreciate your comment. And yeah, John B. Alexander was a part of it, who I'm in the past have been saying how John B. Alexander and Jack Pruitt were the same person. I am finding out through doing more research that I believe they're two separate people, and people like Joseph Powell are getting their memories mixed up. No disrespect to Joseph, but I like, for instance, Andrew Basiago. I showed him a picture of John B. Alexander, and I was like, "Hey, was this Jack Pruitt?" He's like, "Absolutely not." And look at him. No, that's a totally different person. I know who he is. That's not the same. They're not the same person. So something interesting. I don't know where Joseph is. I'd love to have him on the show and talk more about Montauk. It's been a long time, but anyway, yeah. So it's already happening. It's already making our brains weaker. It's doing terrible things for the development of children, giving them tablets and cell phones. No, Andy's not coming on. Someday in the future. I have an internet interview with him in the past. So if you didn't know that, Jason, it's pretty old. It's from like a couple of years ago, and it was with John Whipper. It was a great interview. John Whipper co-interviewed with me. And there was a point where he kind of was like the Brian to this channel, where he was sort of the co-host. But there was a while there where we weren't talking. So, but no, I should have him on again, honestly. Quavery old man persona. Are you talking about, John B. Alexander? Yeah, I don't like him either. And you can tell he's hiding information when he talks, and he's just not a fan of the guy. But anyway.
This isn't a theory. It's already happening. The consequences are catastrophic. Diminished mental acuity, weakened memory, shorter attention spans, and declining creativity are just the beginning. A society that relinquishes its cognitive power to machines becomes a society of followers, unable to innovate or resist. The result? A class of mentally subdued individuals ripe for manipulation. But this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes.
Okay, I'm sorry to keep interrupting this, but you have no idea how bad it gets when they're saying that. Like, I've seen it, you guys. Like, I'm not fucking kidding when I warn you of this and how dangerous it is and how fucking bad this is, okay? The poor, there ain't even a concept of money. They don't have money. Like, all you do is work. That's it. And they make you, it is illegal. Like, watch the movie THX 1138. It's like that, but there's no sound. Like, that's the only difference, really. Like, they make you take drugs. You have to take drugs. It is illegal to not take drugs, to keep you in a stupor, to keep you mind controlled. And it's literally just the workers, and then we live underneath the ground for real. And then the rich live on the surface of the earth, which many people never see their entire lives. Like, think about that for a minute. That's the future we're headed towards if you listen to all these false prophets saying that Elon Musk is going to fucking take us to the stars. That's what's going to happen. Not a golden age.
to the many dangers of artificial intelligence. In a recent interview with the Jimmy Dore Show, Whitney exposes something even more chilling and terrifying. Our leaders being able to use artificial intelligence to achieve any objective, however dastardly, and conveniently avoid reproach by blaming the machines for
just Doge, Stargate, all of it. We need to stop it. Like, you know how like people will like go on the streets and like how we protested the Iraq war, or you know, whatever, certain issues, people go out in the streets and riot over it or whatever, or protest over it. That's what we need to do over this AI. Basically, that's the only thing that I can really think of. I just not go along with it. Just not go along with it. Be critical of it. Don't be applauding like, oh, this is great. Yeah, Doge equal EGOD. That's been brought up a couple times here. It's pretty odd, huh? All right.
their mistakes. It's already been established that our elected leaders are joined at the hip with the global elites, the World Economic Forum elites that want to take everything from you and put themselves in charge of every aspect of your lives. Whitney warns that artificial intelligence is how they quickly achieve their aims. Imagine what happens when they use it to push their own agendas, shape narratives, influence beliefs, and consolidate wealth and power. That's the future humanity faces if we continue to be led on by the official narrative. As we bring you clips from Whitney's interview, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel.
And also, I just want to reiterate with this future, the rich live forever. My name was L18213B or something like that. And I know it was L18. I don't know about the second part. I always get slightly off. I actually have it written down in here, I think. I want to be right about it. I want to say the name. It's bothering me. I want to be 100% correct. Huh. Okay, yeah, here it is. Here it is. L18093. That was my name. L18093. And basically, I was tasked to the job of going to the surface to bring clone bodies to the elite for a ritual where they basically shed their old bodies and then they go on new bodies. And they literally live forever. Elon is literally one of these people in this timeline who lives forever through the aid of technology. And so do the people like they're all born in tubes and stuff. So do the workers, but they wake up not remembering. They wake up as new people. So they don't like live forever. It's the equivalent to what we have now with natural birth, where you're birthed and you don't remember anything.
And turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for the support and enjoy the video.
I do want to point out really quick,
Yes, I think he's 100% evil. I think that should be pretty obvious to see, considering that on the first day of Trump's presidency, he did a Sig Heil. And that is a Sig Heil. It's not a Sig Heil. Anybody trying to tell me that wasn't a Sig Heil, that wasn't a Heil Hitler, not listening to it. It was. And no, he's evil as all fuck. I have literally seen this man feast on human flesh. Like, I'm not kidding. Was that an altar? Maybe. Regardless, he's showing you who he is. Believe him. You know what I mean? Whether this version of him is a cannibal, which let's face it, he is. He wears a Baphomet uniform with his mom. Like, they are. I don't think it's an altar. And yes, I do think that. Yeah, I already live forever. I'm thousands of years old. I'm already living forever. This is already happening to me just with memory wipes. It's already happening. I was born in Munich, Germany in the 50s in an alternate reality. And yes, Elon's mom is 100% a witch. I know this because I know the woman. I know her. And I'm finding out Jessie Civitar, I don't know how you say her name, CZBUTAR, whatever. I was talking to Aquarius Rising Africa. I'm doing an interview with tomorrow. And they were telling, because I was telling them about my testimony. And she's saying all the same things. She remembers Elon. She remembers Elon from the Mothers of Darkness Castle. She remembers Elon eating human flesh as well as his mother. We have never talked to each other in our lives. I've never watched any of our interviews, and we're saying the same thing because it's true.
I think DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, is really a Trojan horse for putting as much of government in the hands of AI as possible. And I think when you do that, that doesn't necessarily mean smaller government, right? Perhaps less humans in the workforce, but having like AI run all these different departments and programs and whatever doesn't necessarily mean the government is shrinking. It can mean the government human workforce is shrinking, but it's not necessarily the same thing. So we'll have to pay close attention to how that develops over time, because I suspect someone like Elon Musk, for example, who obviously has positioned himself to have undue power, considering that no one voted for him, is a big proponent of carbon taxes and carbon markets and a lot of stuff that conservatives and libertarians certainly don't like, and certainly would be an expansion of government. You're creating a whole new market, essentially, that civilians and corporations alike would have to play in order to meet, those quotas or however they choose to set it up. And I think ultimately it's very, very problematic putting AI in charge of government. It's actually something that Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger cheered on in their book, The Age of AI, Our Human Future, a very misleading title. It's about the post-human future that they envision. And basically,
even like Musk supporters and stuff know how evil Kissinger and all those guys are, and they're birds of a feather flocking together, you guys.
The way they sort of describe it, and I would recommend people read the book for themselves, but I sort of, my interpretation of it is that it's the ultimate kind of Wizard of Oz cover for the government to get away with whatever it wants. And honestly, like Henry Kissinger's wet dream. No wonder he was so excited about AI, because essentially, you can claim that, they argue that AI will become so much more intelligent than humans and think so differently that it could never explain how it reaches its conclusions to people, which envisions a future of computer says no, computer says yes, computer issues it, and you can't question it. It can't explain itself. We must trust that it's, in a kind of a religious way, that it's so much smarter than anything else. So if it says, Nuki ran.
And again, to pause it, I'm going to explain that this actually happened. This was actually what the future was like. Everybody's like, oh, just listen to the computer. The computer's right. Like, don't listen to anything else. Like, the computer knows. Like, humans did not make decisions. The computer made all of the decisions. There was no such thing as, oh, what am I going to do today? Let's see, what could I do? No, the computer already had that all figured out for you every single day, what you were going to do. So I'm just reiterating that I've seen this. This isn't some hypothetical thing. This has already happened in other timelines, and we have to make sure that it doesn't happen in this one.
For example, and then they get
like I remember running into, like, explaining to a lady, the one who I ended up impregnating later on. I remember trying to explain to her the computer is not God, like, it's taking your humanity from you. It's bad. It's evil, actually. And she was like, no, and by the way, I got her to talk. And she sounded like a deaf person because she'd never talked before. Because I was talking to her in English. I was like, words? Do you know how to use them? I was like mocking her. I'm like, you never even used your fucking human mouth before. You're so brainwashed by this computer. So she finally started, because I didn't have a neural link. So she was trying to talk to me, and I couldn't hear her. And she was just like, sounded like a deaf person. And she was just like, no, the computer, without the AI, like, and they had a name for it. I can't remember what they called it. I've said it in another interview. I can't remember. They had a name for it. But she was just basically like, without the computer, we'd have famine, we'd have war, we'd be starving, everything would be terrible. And like, that's literally how they all think, is like the computer. What she's saying here, she's not, like, you can't take her seriously enough, okay? Like, I've seen this future where artificial intelligence literally becomes God. You do not want to enter that future. You do not want to allow this to happen.
In trouble for it or something, they'll be like, well, it was the computer and it's so much more intelligent than us humans. I mean, that's basically a way for them to get away with whatever they want. Just be like, well, actually, the super intelligent artificial general intelligence that's smarter than God himself told us to do it, and we can't question that now, can we? I mean, that's basically sort of the setup. And, hopefully that's not the same thing Elon Musk and Ramaswamy have in mind, but I don't know. I mean, the lines between Eric Schmidt world and Peter Thiel verse world are actually pretty thin. They're both on the steering committee of the Bilderberg conference, and they agree on a lot more than they don't. They're both very closely aligned with the Department of Defense. As it comes to AI, Eric Schmidt basically wrote the game plan for how national security would use AI as head of the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence a few years ago. And of course, Peter Thiel, through many of his companies and the company he backs, is a major military contractor with a lot of ties to the national security state. And of course, not just the Department of Defense in Thiel's case, but also the CIA. And, they're really not that different in the end of the day. I think their sales pitches are different and how they frame stuff is different. So this particular camp that sort of claimed that they're the Silicon Valley libertarians are cloaking themselves in a lot of words like innovation, efficiency, and all of this stuff. But the problem is, AI as an industry is very overhyped. So for example, you could have a company say, like one company I wrote about during COVID-19 is an Israeli company called Diagnostic Robotics. And so they were picked by the Rhode Island governor at the time, who later became Biden's commerce secretary, to basically predict COVID outbreaks before they happen in Rhode Island. And they said themselves that their algorithm was roughly like 75% accurate, but that's like, the company's opinion. Right. That wasn't independently vetted or anything. So it's probably closer to 60 or 50%, like a coin toss. So is it really more efficient to put an algorithm like that in charge of deciding public health policy, or if a particular community is locked down and its economic activity halted or something like that? That's just one example. I mean, obviously AI is being applied to every sector, but there's been a lot of grift in this particular field. And it's also happened with, a former DARPA director had sort of a defense tech company. Her name's Regina Dugan when Obama was in power, and they got basically outed.
Let me explain something about the state of Israel right now. The state of Israel has become an ethno-state. They are trying to cleanse the Muslim population there. This is white supremacy. So despite the fact that he might be a Nazi, well, he is a Nazi. When you have a mutual enemy and the state of Israel is doing all this ethnic cleansing and stuff, he's going to be all about that. It's a complicated issue. Most Jewish people do not agree with the Zionist state of Israel and the things that they're doing. And many Jewish people are speaking out against what's going on over there. So it's a unique thing. This is Whitney Webb. I don't know the name of her books. Just look up Whitney Webb. She's on a lot of interviews and stuff. And yeah, I think Zionists run Israel, and Elon is absolutely conscious of what he's doing. As far as standing by Israel, I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful country. My old drummer, there's a family called the Morris family. I'm really close to their family that's not blood, and they used to live in Israel. It's a beautiful place. I stand by Israel as well, but not the Zionists that are currently running it. Not Netanyahu. That guy is fucking evil. But that's a whole nother story. Not that I support the other side of things either. That's a whole thing. It's like, just war's bad. It's bad. I don't support anyone bombing anyone. The eagle meets the serpent. He's a car salesman. They're always gonna say, yeah, the guy is literally a car salesman. That's. Hey Kevin, how's it going? I don't know if this is Kevin Byrne, my buddy, but is that you, Kevin, or is this a different Kevin? Because I have a friend named Kevin who is a hermit. So, yeah. Anyway, but anyway, we're gonna keep playing this, and let's see what else she has to say. She's really smart. I haven't watched this whole thing yet, but I watched the first minute or two. I'm like, oh, I'm putting this on the channel.
For having that, I think it was for detecting IEDs or the probability of them or something. I forget exactly what it was about, but it was found to literally be like a fraudulent algorithm. It was no better than a coin toss, and nothing happened to her. So this type of stuff happens in government all the time. And just because Elon Musk and Ramaswamy are at the helm of it doesn't mean that's going to happen. Specifically, when you look at Vivek Ramaswamy's, track record in pharma world of pump and dumps and things like that. This type of waste can still happen even if the government workforce is smaller. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what those policies are. But it's important to note that those people at DOGE, and also, David Sachs is the AI crypto czar, who's also part of the PayPal mafia. None of them, as far as I know, have to divest from their investment interests.
In addition to her warning about artificial intelligence, Whitney also exposes chilling plans by the global elites to co-opt Bitcoin and crypto to further their less than palatable agendas for us all. According to Whitney, we are witnessing the birth of a new international monetary system, one that will redefine the way humanity lives, and not for the better. She adds that this system, built entirely on blockchain technology, isn't about innovation or efficiency. It's about surveillance, control, and censorship.
And there are some people in this community, in fact, many people in the truther community, who are saying they're doing whole shows on Bitcoin and blockchain, and they think it's part of the future and they're all about it. I'm not. So welcome to the truth. Welcome to fucking reality, you guys. This technology is dangerous.
At a scale we've never seen before. This isn't a wild theory. Global elites and members of the World Economic Forum, like French President Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England and the UN's Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, have openly laid out their vision. Carney himself described the 3 pillars of the so-called New World Order: digital IDs, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and environmental, social, and governance.
Centurion 5 had a banking system like this, where everything you buy is tracked. It's all computerized. All of the money's digital. So, like for instance, like when I told you guys, I would buy cannabis, which was illegal on Centurion 5, and obviously it's not like on Earth where you just draw cash and give your drug dealer cash, and there you go. The it's not recorded. The transaction is clandestine. It's not like that. What I would have to do is there's these special, I think they're like yellow or like gold flowers or something like that, and they were like extra money. And basically, like, it was the whole idea behind it was you're trying to be a big baller on your date and look nice by getting those flowers. But the guy knew, like, he could tell by looking at you when he showed up if you wanted a bag of weed or not, and that's the real reason why you're ordering those flowers. So that was how he would get around the flowers, or selling weed even though it was illegal, and being able to make money off of it, is he worked it into his flower business. But like, yeah, like, and that's also how he was able to, because everything was districted and you couldn't go across. It was basically 15-minute cities, you guys. Like you were stuck in your own little zone, and only during certain times of the day or week or whatever were you allowed to go to certain places. This guy had a permit because of his flower delivery business where he could go across districts and stuff like that. And that's how he was able to make a lot of money off of selling cannabis. And, yeah, he had to, like, pay off cops and things like that, too. So, yeah, Centurion. Yeah, I've been hearing about you guys are supposed to be, like, badasses over there. Like, us in the United States, like, we've always thought of Aussies as, like, badass motherfuckers. And the past 10, 20 years, your government has just kind of been, like, really screwing you guys over. And maybe like changing that whole look where we're like, dang, those poor Aussies, and you guys are looking at us like, glad you guys, like, keep your guns, guys. You don't want to be us. Like, yeah, it's wild. I'm sorry about that.
ESG standards. Together, these mechanisms will create a system where every move you make, every dollar you spend, and every decision you take can be monitored, judged, and controlled.
This is what they want. And like, it's so funny because you hear people in the truther community or some of these right-wing pundits and things like that talking about how this is all going to happen in China and this is all going to be in China. It's not just going to be in China, you guys. They want this here as well.
During her interview with the Jimmy Dore Show, Whitney exposes some of the players behind this agenda. She explains how governments worldwide are aligning themselves with this vision, proudly championed by the ultra-wealthy and powerful. Figures like Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, are at the forefront. Here are more clips from the video.
It's really a two-part system. So it involves sort of yoking the dollar in a de facto way to Bitcoin, and then basically boosting the price of Bitcoin through the roof, essentially, as a way to sort of allow the US government to debt pardon itself. And one of the reasons, well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so I'll come back to that later. But basically, we've had so many wealth transfers in this country. We're at the point where the robber barons, the elite bankers, whatever you want to call them, have basically stolen everything. So now that they have everything, they want to move to deflationary money. And so the only problem they have left the only hurdle left to cross, right, is sort of this extreme U.S. government debt crisis that is about to be upon the United States and essentially been admitted by big-time congressmen like Paul Ryan very recently. And one of the ways Paul Ryan pitched getting out of that problem was starting to regulate dollar stable coins, many of which have now surpassed several nation states, biggest holders of U.S. treasuries or U.S. government debt in the world, right? So you have like the biggest dollar stablecoin like Tether now holding, more treasuries than, well, I forget exactly where it is in the ranking, but it's bigger than Germany and some other countries that have significant amounts of reserves. Unfortunately, I don't have the figures at the top of my head right now, but it's a very easy search to find, those exact numbers. But it's very significant and being talked about pretty widely. So stablecoins are becoming a way for the U.S. government to service its debt, and this is sort of being done throughout Latin America, especially where you have sort of this de facto, what I would call sort of covert dollarization happening. So like you wreck an economy like Argentina via the IMF, for example, which the U.S. military and documents published by WikiLeaks several years ago was referred to as a financial weapon of U.S. empire, right? So if you like wreck an economy and you destroy their currency, and then people flock to Tether or USDC or some other because they can't get their hand on physical dollars. They can get their hand on virtual dollars. And that's happening in a big way in a lot of these economies that have become increasingly destabilized, arguably on purpose, by the US power structure. And then you have them becoming.
So I've been saying, side note, I've been saying that they're destabilizing Middle Eastern countries, South American countries, what have you, intentionally, and then sending those people here to embolden xenophobic, basically fascist ideologies that other human beings and create America first kind of mentality. They're creating this problem reaction solution so that they can come in and militarize the police. They can create stronger borders. They can do all these things and take our rights from us. They're already trying to make amendments to the Constitution, which, by the way, I have a copy of, and I highly recommend people start carrying around a copy of this bad boy, because they're going to try to change it. So get a copy of it before they do, and carry it around with you, because this is the Constitution. It's not supposed to be amended. Like this is like the Bill of Rights. Like this is the most important. This is like a holy document for Americans, and they're trying to fuck with it right now.
De facto dollarized as opposed to sort of formal dollarization, which took place decades ago in places like Ecuador, El Salvador, where those countries essentially lose a significant amount of their financial sovereignty because they're sort of at the whim of the Federal Reserve, which they have zero control over, right?
So you're saying in a case like that, all right, so their currency's been destroyed partly through IMF policy or entirely. So
or World Bank or the multilateral development banking system among, there's these vulture capitalist figures that have been a big issue in Argentina as well. Most of them are American, like Paul Singer, for example, is probably one of the most notorious. BlackRock is also one. Javier Milei in Argentina has been making deals with them. Yeah, he doesn't say afuera to BlackRock. Or JP Morgan or, plenty of other, or Silicon Valley. He's like, no, take over our government, please. It's kind of funny. He's like, yeah, like libertarians cheer him on because he's like, he's like, I'm going to get rid of the Ministry of Education. It's wasteful. And that, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not an expert on waste and, the Ministry of Education in Argentina, but he's pitched replacing it with Facebook's AI to train everyone in, all the young people in Argentina for the future of work. That doesn't sound like a great alternative.
Whitney has no problem with Bitcoin or its underlying technology. She recognizes the leading digital currency as a revolutionary concept and a liberating force designed to emancipate people from the clutches of governments and central banks. Her problem is with those trying to co-opt it to fit their agendas. She is also particularly skeptical of stablecoins like Tether and warns that the global banking cabal will push the adoption of these centralized cryptocurrencies as CBDCs globally. In one tweet, she issues some specific warnings about Tether and its close relationship with intelligence agencies. The tweet reads, "Tether was intimately involved in the FTX scandal, has the FBI Secret Service on its platform to surveil its users, openly states its main goal is to help spread dollar hegemony globally, and seizes people's USDT whenever the Treasury's OFAC puts them on their naughty list. It is not freedom money. It is the newest phase of the US dollar debt slavery system and easily acts as a de facto CBDC in terms of its threats to financial liberty. It is a private sector digital currency, but the US NatSec states' mass surveillance efforts have always been public-private partnerships. Why would the CBDC effort be any different?" Another tweet in which she warns about the dangers of artificial intelligence reads, "The Kissinger, Eric Schmidt book on artificial intelligence basically states that the real promise of AI, from their perspective, is as a tool of perception manipulation, that eventually, people will not be able to interpret or perceive reality without the help of an AI via cognitive diminishment and learned helplessness."
Honestly, after what I've seen in this alternate timeline where we get that, it's like giving me goosebumps to hear her say this. Like, because that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened, and it's what they want to happen again. You can't allow it to happen again.
For that to happen, online reality must become so unbelievable that real people can no longer distinguish real from fake in the virtual realm, so they can then become dependent on certain algorithms to tell them what is real. Please realize that we are in a war against the elites over human perception and that social media is a major battleground in that war. Hold on to your critical thinking and skepticism and never surrender it. Do you agree that artificial intelligence poses a lot of dangers to humans, especially in the hands of our megalomaniac leaders and elites? Whitney has made a lot of important points in her interviews and tweets. Please share your thoughts, comments, and observations in the comments section below. If you liked this video and want more like it, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, if you found
You can
that
also activate
just saying that the channel's got a bunch more content. Check it out. So, basically, that's the video. I don't think I need to really go on much longer. Basically, they're trying to usher in AI. It's bad. Project Stargate is dangerous. DOGE is dangerous. Elon Musk is dangerous. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't be gaslit into thinking these people are heroes. They're not. It's a very dangerous time right now. It's very crucial that we react to the problem, reaction, solution accordingly. That we keep in mind that these people are trying to manufacture the way we react to things. They're doing social engineering, and we can't allow it to be successful. A good example would be 2020. I don't think their goals really were carried out in the way that they wanted them to be carried out, and we're in a much better place now 5 years in the future because of that. We can continue this with AI, with everything. It's very simple. We need to remember that liberty and freedom are human values that are more important than anything else. And we can't let a computer take that from us. It's pretty simple stuff. I want to thank everybody for being here. Please, if you can, subscribe to the Patreon. It's only $5. If you can donate to my PayPal, that's always appreciated. It's paypal.me/Arkheim Ra. If you do super chats, YouTube takes like 20 to 30% of that. So it's always really nice when people send money on PayPal. And obviously, super chats are appreciated too. I know it's just a lot easier for a lot of people to just send the money through the YouTube. So that's always nice too. But obviously, just thank you for being here. I just throw that out there as a content creator. Those are the ways you can financially support. But just by being here and listening, you have been supportive, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna have myself lunch and stuff, a late lunch soon, and go pick up my synthesizer in Vancouver, which I'm really excited about. I got it fixed, so I got stuff I gotta do. But yeah, thanks everybody for being here. I love you guys. And by the way, I update this thank you video every month. So if you're like, why is my name in there? Because I know I have a few new subscribers. You will be in the February video. So love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.